"Get out of here, you incompetent young subcontractor," Maria said with a smug grin. Sarah, without even wiping off the spilled coffee, stared back at Maria. I was so shocked by the scene that I could only watch in stunned silence. "What's with that look? Got a problem?" Maria tried to dominate the atmosphere with her aggressive attitude. But Sarah stood her ground and firmly responded, "Yes, be prepared. My name is Chris Miller, and I'm almost 68 years old. I always thought I was still young, but before I knew it, I had reached this age. Looking back, I realize how quickly time passes. I've worked tirelessly since I was young. Maybe that's why times seem to fly by even faster. Now, I've stepped back from the forefront of business and live a relaxed life. From now on, I hope to enjoy my favorite pastime, golf, and have a pleasant retirement. Though my wife has passed away, I am fortunate to have many lively golf buddies of the same age. So, I believe I can have a lively retirement. Besides, I live with my granddaughter, so I don't feel lonely. My granddaughter's name is Sarah. She graduated from college last year and just started working. For various reasons, I have raised her as my own child. Sarah is strong-willed and smart, but in my opinion, she's still a bit delicate and unreliable. So, I need to take care of my dear granddaughter a bit longer until she becomes independent. Though she might think she doesn't need such care given her strong personality. Today, I have plans to meet my golf buddy. He is a president of a company, and his name is Robert Williams, 64 years old, 4 years younger than me. He is also planning to retire as president soon. I'm sure today we'll have a lively discussion about that topic. When I meet Robert, I usually visit his company. We chat in his office and sometimes hit the town at night. Robert is a friend I can feel completely at ease with. Must be nice, Chris. Always on vacation. As soon as we met, Robert cracked this joke. "Robert, you've only got 1 more year to tough it out. Once you retire, you'll find it lonely." Is that so? But the hard part is choosing a successor. It's giving me a headache. After starting with such a conversation, we chatted about golf, friends, and other trivial matters before leaving the office. Whenever I visit Robert's company, I usually relax in the cafeteria before heading home. I'm not sure how this habit started, but the urban view from there somehow resonates with me. I took my iced coffee from the counter and sat by the window. Looking at the bustling scene below, I thought about how I used to be one of them, which made me feel nostalgic. Suddenly, I noticed a familiar woman on the floor. "Hey, Sarah," I called out impulsively. Sarah, who was walking briskly, noticed me and was surprised. "Oh, Grandpa." Apparently, Sarah had come to Robert's company for a business meeting. She seemed busy, so we parted after exchanging just a few words. She hurried into the back of the cafeteria. I was the one who introduced Sarah to Robert's company. Because of my relationship with Robert, the contract was easily established. It's been almost a year since the transaction began. Sarah's workplace is subcontracting for Robert's company. I'm happy that my golf buddy Robert and my granddaughter Sarah are connected through work. But now, Sarah looked very troubled. When talking with me, Sarah always shows a bright smile. Yet, she had a seriousness I had never seen before. Could she be caught up in some work-related trouble? This anxiety welled up in me. When I looked back at her, she was just about to sit down in a partitioned meeting space. She must be meeting someone there. Before I knew it, I had followed her and moved to a seat where I could stay out of her sight. Even though she's my granddaughter, this is too much. I know that, but I can't help but worry about her. Even if I stay close, there's nothing I can do. After a while, a middle-aged woman who seemed to be the manager sat down across from Sarah, holding a coffee. "Miss Maria, I apologize for taking up your time." Sarah spoke in a humble voice. "Between me and them, There was only a single frosted acrylic panel, so I could hear their voices and see their figures faintly. A meeting with the manager. Something serious seemed to be happening. Why are you here? You're just our subcontractor. You should just listen to our terms and keep quiet. What do you want? Maria's irritable voice grated on my ears. Using such harsh words with an outsider, despite being a manager. Thinking of Sarah made my chest hurt. With all due respect, I can't accept those terms. They violate compliance. Sarah's words about violating compliance conveyed a sense of urgency. It seemed this negotiation was not just a regular one. I felt I understood why Sarah looked so serious. Don't say such alarming things. This is a legitimate negotiation. Everyone does this. You're just inexperienced and don't understand how the world works. Maria lowered her voice. Her tone only heightened the uneasy atmosphere. With all due respect, I don't think that's the case. This kind of deal will bring harm to both our companies and to you too. Could you please reconsider? Though quiet, Sarah's voice was filled with earnest concern. Who do you think you are? Enough? Change the representative. I can't talk to you anymore. I heard the screech of a chair being pushed back. At the same time, I saw Maria standing up. Please wait, Miss Maria. Sarah's voice was filled with distress as she also stood up. The next moment, I heard a splash and a scream. The scream must have come from Sarah. I stood up quickly and peered over the partition. Sarah stood there in shock, facing Maria, who glared at her with a sharp gaze. Liquid dripped from Sarah's hair, and her white blouse was stained brown. Maria held an empty coffee cup in her hand. It was clear what had just happened. Get out of here, you incompetent young subcontractor, Maria said with a smug grin. Sarah, without even wiping off the spilled coffee, stared back at Maria. I was so shocked by the scene that I could only watch in stunned silence. What are you looking at, old man? Maria noticed me and turned her glare toward me. Are you okay? I took a handkerchief from my pocket and pressed it to Sarah's forehead. Sarah looked surprised for a moment, but quickly returned her gaze to Maria. What's with that look? Got a problem? Maria tried to dominate the atmosphere with her aggressive attitude. But Sarah stood her ground and firmly responded. Yes, be prepared. Annoyed by Sarah's attitude, Maria clicked her tongue and quickly left the table. Once Maria disappeared, Sarah let out a deep sigh. Tears began to well up in her eyes. It seemed the tension had finally broken. Sarah, let's go home. I placed my hand on her back, and Sarah nodded. Her shoulders trembled as if she was struggling against something. Seeing her like that ignited a fire of anger within me. I will never forgive that woman, I muttered to myself, clenching my right fist. Sarah and I went straight home. Sarah, who had been silent the entire way, burst into tears as soon as we faced each other in the living room. She acted bravely in front of Maria, but she's only in her second year at the company. She has very little life experience. It's natural for her to be shocked, having never faced such a harsh situation. I listened as Sarah explained the details. According to Sarah, Maria started interfering with the contract about a month ago. Up until then, the transactions with the previous representative had gone smoothly without any significant issues. Then suddenly, Maria demanded a change in terms. First, she made an absurd request for a price cut. Naturally, Sarah refused. Next, Maria demanded a kickback instead of the price cut. A manager demanding a kickback from a subcontractor is unheard of. If you had told me sooner, I would have informed the president. When I said this, Sarah pursed her lips and muttered softly. I wanted to solve it myself. Sarah wanted to handle Maria on her own without relying on my help. She tried to convince Maria to change her mind and stop her misconduct. I was moved by Sarah's sincerity. At the same time, I felt anger towards Maria for trampling on Sarah's feelings. Maria probably doesn't know about my relationship with Robert. She likely doesn't understand how this contract was established. Of course, she doesn't know that Sarah is the daughter of the president's friend. If she did, she wouldn't have imposed such unreasonable conditions or thrown coffee at Sarah. However, ignorance doesn't excuse her actions. Grandpa, what I did wasn't wrong, right? So why do I have to go through this? Sarah's sad face stirred my heart. Her opponent is a seasoned veteran who climbed up to the position of manager. No matter how strong Sarah's sense of justice is, she's just a second-year employee up against a formidable foe. Sarah, you did nothing wrong. You did the right thing, but there are bad people in this world who mock the righteous. Let Grandpa handle this matter, I said, holding Sarah's hands. Sarah hesitated, unsure if she should accept my help, but finally gave a small nod. She probably doesn't like relying on me. This stubbornness is just like her father. If he were alive, he would be a great support for Sarah now. That's why I have to support Sarah as a surrogate parent. I immediately called Robert. I informed him about the incident in the cafeteria and Maria's unreasonable demands. Maria did such a thing. Robert's voice choked after hearing the story. Chris, I'm so sorry. And to your granddaughter too. But Maria holds significant power within the company. She's involved in the fierce competition for the next president. I could sense Robert's distress. Maria has solidified her position and is busy gathering votes from the board members. Robert supports the board members opposing Maria. Because of this, Maria has a rebellious attitude towards Robert. Therefore, even if he reprimands her, the board members supporting her will likely squash it. Robert imagines this outcome. Then I'll help. I witnessed her throw coffee at Sarah. There's no way she can deny it. Besides, we have an ace up our sleeve. When I said this, Robert's voice brightened as if he had been waiting for these words. Sorry, Chris. I owe you one again, Robert said with a wry smile, scratching his head. Anyway, set up a meeting for me, you and Manager Maria. If you can do that, I'll handle the rest. Robert agreed to my request without hesitation. 2 days later, I visited Robert. In the president's office, he looked different, a bit tense. Maria's presence must be weighing on him. After a brief greeting, Robert immediately called Maria into the office. A few minutes later, there was a loud knock on the door, and without waiting for a response, Maria bodged into the office. Her behavior reflected Robert's struggle. This woman had no respect for the president. She probably looked down on him, thinking he'd be leaving soon anyway. What do you want to talk about? Maria asked bluntly as she entered the room. As soon as she finished speaking, she noticed me and frowned. Who is this? Maria asked Robert, her gaze fixed on me. Hello, Manager Maria. Don't you recognize my face? Before Robert could answer, I asked in a mocking tone, causing Maria to glare at me with hostility. Remembering faces is an important skill for those in leadership. Have you already forgotten what happened the day before yesterday? When I taunted her, Maria's eyes widened as if something had clicked. Oh, the old man from the cafeteria. Robert's eyebrow twitched at her words. He was clearly angered by her rudeness. He is my friend, Mr. Miller. He said he witnessed you throwing coffee on a customer in the cafeteria the day before yesterday. Regardless of the reason, such behavior is unacceptable in the company. Robert's eyebrow twitched at her words. A friend of the president, it's inappropriate to let outsiders into our cafeteria, and I didn't throw any coffee. It was just an accident, Maria said with a brazen smile. Dismissing the testimony of someone who witnessed it up close shows how cunning she is. Accidentally spilled coffee, you say? That's a transparent lie. The woman sitting with you was drenched from head to toe. Claiming it was an accident is implausible. I confronted her as if to say I was the witness. Maria twisted her mouth into a sneer and gave me a defiant look. That's your imagination, isn't it? Or a misperception? You seem quite old, so maybe your memory is failing. Maria smirked, mocking me. It seems she won't be easy to deal with, just as Robert warned. Time to launch my first arrow. Do you think I'm senile? Quite the accusation. Allow me to tell you who I am. Changing my demeanor, I recounted my background with a serious face. In reality, I am the chairman of Care Holdings, a group of companies. In my youth, I founded a venture company, which led to numerous mergers and acquisitions. Now, I oversee 15 companies as chairman, although Robert's company and mine have no direct capital relationship. We are a major client for his company. Currently, as chairman, I oversee the companies under our umbrella. As I spoke with a knowing smile, Maria's expression changed dramatically. What? You're the chairman of K Holdings? No way. Maria, who had been glaring at me with disdain, now assumed a respectful attitude. It seems my status had an effect. It's fine, whether you're a chairman or not. Everyone ages. I looked into Maria's eyes with a sarcastic smile. No, that's not. Maria stammered, clearly embarrassed. That said, I'm not so old that I'm senile. I came here today to warn President Williams. It's unacceptable for a manager to behave so outrageously. It's unbecoming of our business partner. Depending on the situation, we might stop doing business with you. I glared at her, and Maria looked down at the floor, clearly uncomfortable. She glanced up at me and spoke. I apologize for my rude remarks. Maria offered a token apology, but that wasn't the end of it. But she was at fault too. She rejected our proposed terms without even considering them. She has no real skills, yet she was so arrogant, it made me lose my temper. She tried to shift the blame onto Sarah. Maria's words conveyed such a nuance. So you're saying it's her fault and you did nothing wrong? Robert said, glancing at me. I wouldn't go that far, but she was the cause. I couldn't stand her rude attitude as a mere subcontractor. If there's coffee in front of you, anyone would feel the same way. Maria desperately tried to justify her actions. I felt anger at her ridiculous excuses, but held back and responded calmly. I see, so that's what happened. You were upset by the rude behavior of the subcontractor's representative and threw coffee. I just happened to witness it. It's true that some young people these days lack manners. While throwing coffee is questionable, I might have lost my temper too in such a situation. When I spoke sympathetically, a smug smile appeared on Maria's face. She likely thought this would blow over, and this minor issue would be easy to handle. But I wasn't going to let her off that easily. This was just the prelude. The main act was about to begin. By the way, what was the name of the subcontractor? I asked, my expression turning serious. Maria's eyebrows twitched, and she looked wary. I just wanted to ask for reference. Speaking in a cheerful tone to put her at ease, Maria readily mentioned the company's name. The name she mentioned was the company where Sarah works. In fact, this company is one of our group companies. This means that within our group, some companies are subcontractors to Robert's company, while others are major clients. I know that company, by the way. Who is the representative? Keeping my tone as neutral as possible, I asked, and Maria mentioned Sarah's name. I almost smiled at how predictable this was. Sarah Miller, right? You lost your patience with her rude attitude. In that case, I'll reprimand her. Maria looked puzzled at that moment. Maybe she was starting to connect the dots about my relationship with Sarah. I continued swiftly. Actually, Sarah Miller is my granddaughter, and just so you know, the subcontractor is one of our group companies. I narrowed my eyes at Maria, letting the anger I had been holding back flare in my gaze. What? A gasp of wordless shock escaped from Maria's mouth. It was no surprise that she was stunned, having just discovered the person she had been bad-mouthing was deeply connected to me. Sarah is the child of my only daughter. My daughter became pregnant during her school years and gave birth to Sarah. I couldn't accept this and refused to let my daughter and her partner come home. I couldn't forgive that my precious daughter was taken by a man of unknown background. The man worked hard, trying desperately to gain my approval. I had intended to forgive him someday, but that day never came. One day, I received a call from the police. They informed me that a car carrying my daughter, her partner, and Sarah had collided with a truck. Both Sarah's parents died in the accident, and only Sarah survived. Since then, my wife and I have raised Sarah as our own. It was, in part, an act of atonement for my late daughter and her partner. After my wife passed away, Sarah took care of me. Maria has been mocking my beloved granddaughter. Maria, you spoke very poorly of my granddaughter. Did Sarah really treat you so rudely? If so, it's also my responsibility for raising her. Well, did she? I pressed her with a stronger tone. The color drained from Maria's face, turning her pale in an instant. No, Chairman, you're being unfair. If I had known earlier. Was she trying to say she would have treated Sarah differently if she had known? I purposely concealed my identity to corner Maria. So, tell me, Manager Maria, was Sarah really that rude? Or did you just look down on her because she's from a subcontractor? I realized my voice had risen in excitement. My tone seemed to intimidate Maria, making her shrink back. Manager, what is it? We might lose an important client, be honest. If our group companies withdrew from Robert's company, it would be devastating for them. Maria surely understood that. I'm sorry. Maria apologized deeply. Apology means you acknowledge your fault. Yes, it's true I got angry at her attitude, but maybe I was just irritated. I'm truly sorry. Her previously arrogant demeanor was completely gone. Right now, Maria was likely focused on how to get out of this situation and minimize the damage to her standing in the race for the next president. If apologizing or even kneeling would help her achieve that, she wouldn't hesitate. But no matter what she does, she won't be saved. Robert and I agreed on this point. Moreover, Sarah holds the decisive evidence to push Maria over the edge. So, Sarah wasn't at fault, correct? I asked firmly, and Maria nodded slightly. Understood, that's fine. It takes courage to admit one's mistakes. As soon as I said this, a faint smile appeared on Maria's face. She probably took my words positively. What a fool. Now, please apologize to Sarah directly. She's waiting next door. I commanded, leaving no room for objection, and Maria's face stiffened. She probably felt an immense unease due to how well prepared this all seemed. Through Robert, I invited Sarah into the president's office. Sarah entered the room, looking slightly nervous, and faced Maria. Now, Manager Maria, please, yesterday she was in tears because of what you did. I urged Maria. Maria, apologize quickly. Robert joined in, pushing her firmly. Maria, who had been hesitating, finally apologized. I'm sorry. Maria apologized with a face full of bitterness. Apologizing to someone as young as Sarah must have been the ultimate humiliation. Her frustration was evident in every fiber of her being. However, an apology is only a momentary shame. This woman isn't truly remorseful. Once she gets through this, she'll go back to her schemes for the presidency. I won't let it end like this. Now it's time for Sarah, fueled by her sense of justice, to take the stage. Manager Maria, please raise your head. Hearing Sarah's words, Maria slowly lifted her face. She looked at Sarah, clenching her teeth. Humiliation, relief, anger. It was clear she was struggling to balance these emotions. Then Sarah, with her eyes shining, softly asked, "By the way, what exactly are you apologizing for?" Maria's eyes darted around, surprised by Sarah's seemingly naive question. She might not have realized what Sarah was getting at. Is it about the coffee or the changes in the contract terms? Sarah's resolute stance gave me goosebumps. I was moved by her strength. On the other hand, Maria was visibly shaken. It was because Sarah mentioned the contract changes in front of Robert. While Maria hesitated on how to respond, Sarah pressed on. If it's about the coffee, don't worry, I'm not concerned about that. But as for the kickback demands, I can't accept your apology. Sarah's sharp remark hit Maria hard. Kickback demands? Those words should never be heard in front of Robert. If this corruption were exposed, Maria's hopes of becoming president would vanish. Maria, what's this about a kickback? You're not seriously demanding that from a subcontractor, are you? Robert's words sounded deliberately naive. In reality, we had planned for Sarah to bring up the kickback issue here. So Robert was already aware. The three of us, Robert, Sarah, and I, had discussed this in advance. Everything up to this point was part of our script. Our goals were to make her apologize for her outrageous behavior and expose the corrupt deal she proposed to the subcontractor. In this, the three of us were united. By exposing Maria's corruption, Robert can eliminate her as a candidate for the next president. Sarah can uphold her sense of justice. And I can take revenge on Maria for making my dear granddaughter cry. I never demanded a kickback. Don't say such ridiculous things. I only asked for a price reduction. Maria, having lost her composure, shouted desperately. She glared at Sarah with fury, but Sarah didn't back down. With a mocking smile, Sarah pulled out her smartphone and displayed it. All my interactions with manager Maria are recorded here. Grandpa told me to keep records of all negotiations. Manager, you even said, this kind of deal happens everywhere. Doesn't that count as a breach of trust? Sarah looked at Maria with a mischievous smile. Unable to contain herself, Maria exploded. Don't mess with me, you little brat. Maria screamed and lunged at Sarah, trying to grab her by the collar. But Sarah swiftly twisted Maria's arm and pinned her to the floor. Maria groaned in pain. Using force is cheating. Plus, I learned Aikido from Grandpa, so you won't win. I silently applauded Sarah's cold smile. Maria, lying on the floor, tried to get up by flailing her legs. But with Sarah pinning her arm, she couldn't move at all. President Williams, it seems this settles the matter, I said cheerfully, and Robert briefly smiled. But he quickly regained a serious expression and looked down at Maria with disdain. Maria, this is the end for you. Consequences will follow. Don't think you'll get away easily. Hearing Robert's final words, Maria gave up resisting. She seemed to have resigned herself to her fate. When Sarah confirmed Maria's resignation, she released her grip, and Maria bolted from the president's office. As we watched her leave, we exchanged looks and relaxed our faces. Subsequent investigations revealed that Maria had been receiving kickbacks from subcontractors. As a result, Maria was dismissed from her director position and charged with breach of trust. Maria had needed money to gain an advantage in the race for the next president. She planned to use the money to bribe executives and increase her supporters. Unable to demand unreasonable price cuts from subcontractors, Maria pressured them for kickbacks and ran around collecting money. She poured in her personal wealth and resorted to crime, clinging to the power of the presidency. Her obsession is astonishing, but now that her scheme has failed, she must pay a heavy price. Maria, who remained single all her life, has no family to support her. Moreover, with her significant assets seized, she has lost her means of livelihood. It's not an exaggeration to say she has no way to sustain herself. How she will live from now on is unclear, but at least she will never again hold a prominent position. As for me, I am filled with pride at Sarah's growth. When she graduated from college, I intended to place her in a prominent position within the group as my successor. However, she refused and chose the smallest company within our group. When I asked why, she said, "Only those who start from the bottom have the right to stand at the top. The journey there is what matters." I don't know where she learned this, but she holds such a belief. I am now certain she will become an excellent leader. After this incident, I believe there may be nothing more I can teach her. Thinking this, I feel a tinge of sadness. Even so, I'm inwardly relieved that I could fulfill my role as a surrogate parent. Robert's company, having removed the executives supporting Maria, has smoothly appointed the next president. Now, he can leave the company with peace of mind. Though I've aged, my body is still full of energy. I look forward to enjoying a delightful retirement with Robert.